there's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect. It's a statement on modern society. Ooh, ain't modern society awful?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Welcome back to Season 2 of the Cabin Night Podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Jake.
I'm James.
Who is currently drinking?
We always get one of us drinking at that point.
It's almost like Ron Brand.
People must like it because we've been commissioned for a second season. So I mean,
Beelzebub was very happy with the first season, so he's commissioned our souls for a second one.
I mean, we've commissioned ourselves, but still.
they don't need to know that.
So, just a quick thing before we get into the discussion. We enjoyed doing the Ghost ranking albums so much that we have decided that we are going to do some more. While we did say that Ghost was a favourite band of us all, we may not do favourite bands of us all. We may do some controversial picks. And some of us might not like some of the bands that we pick, but we're going to do them anyway.
Because that's when we argue.
And that's when you guys all seem to enjoy it the most.
I don't know, I think we might argue on this one. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll see.
Today's episode is Slipknot. So before we get to it, we'd like to invite you to grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and enjoy the discussion.
Well, it felt good hearing that.
It has been quite some time. So, we're ranking Slipknot albums. There are a few more than there were Ghost albums. There are 6 by my counts. That is Slipknot, Iowa, Volume 3, All Hope Is Gone, The Grey Chapter, and We Are Not Your Kind. Slipknot, we'll start there. 1999 it was released. And I'm gonna put this out there before, because I've said it to both the gentlemen sat with me. It's going to be hard for me not to sound like an elitist, because I did buy Slipknot when it came out in 1999.
I was there at the start.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't, because you didn't get Make, Feed, Kill, Repeat.
I didn't,
You're only
no.
a true fan
Yeah,
if you've
I've got
got
that one.
the 6 copies that exist of Make, Feed, Kill, Repeat.
And then promptly stopped listening to it.
I do have a copy of it.
No, do you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Really?
Joe's got one knocking about
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it's original or it's a copy of copy, but I have a copy of Make, Kill, Feed, Repeat.
Roughly around the time in between Volume 3 and All Hope Is Gone.
The re-release.
They did re-release it,
Yeah.
to be fair.
I
Which
don't
is
know if
how
I-
Joe
yeah.
ended up with a copy.
I don't know if I've got that version or whether I've got a copy
Who's
of
the singer? Because it's not Corey at that point.
Anders Colsefini.
Yeah, that's him.
Whatever happened to him?
Oh, wait, Donny Steele?
No, Donny Steele was the best.
He's a bit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay.
What happened to
Anders Colsefini. He's
Yeah.
probably still doing
Was he
stuff.
not just... Was it the roadie or was it Corey that was the roadie?
No, I don't
No,
know.
Corey was just a friend.
Yeah, he worked in a record
Because
shop.
Jim, because Jim is obviously still in Slipknot. Then he needed
Yeah.
a vocalist. He went, oh, the vocalist from my other band, Stone Sour.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
free.
Yeah.
You know, he's homeless and wants a job. He'll
I
do
think
it.
it were Paul and either Chris or Sean that went into the record shop where Corey was working at the time and were like, fancy getting this a go? And the rest is history.
I went to
Thank you, we've been cabin night, didn't we?
I went to Raise My Owls then. Fancy a grind? Sorry, it's a very different band.
Okay. Who wants to open with Slipknot? Who wants to
What are we doing this? Are we starting up?
I've got...
Working up,
Oh,
or-
yeah, sorry. I'd done more preparation than that.
Okay.
The
You
singles...
prepared?
I did
Fucking
prepare.
hell.
The
More
singles
than I
that they released from Slipknot were Wait and Bleed and Spit It Out. They were the only 2 they released on the release.
That's good. I don't feel bad for picking some ones I picked then, because I feel like, certainly with this and with some of the other bands that we've maybe got lined up for future episodes, I am picking a lot of singles, and that's not normally my style.
But there's a reason. But there's a reason these things are the singles.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot, not every time, but bands will send out singles rather that they think are the strongest tracks. Not every time, but on the whole, they go, well, this is the strongest track that will help sell the album.
Yeah.
It's why, in theory, your first single should be the strongest track from that album.
I think bands have got wise to that these days, though, because there's a lot of bands, and I absolutely believe this is what Trivium did with What the Dead Men Say. Catastrophist weren't a great single, and their singles got progressively better. And they finished with Amongst the Shadows and the Stones, which was just pure.
Yeah, that's great. But you don't want to. Saying blow your road too early. You don't want to send out a crap single.
Yeah.
Single. I can't fucking say it.
Well, single will do, because I mean, you are pouring something out there, aren't you?
Yeah, but you send out a crap single and people go, "Oh, I'm not going to get that.
Yeah.
That was dreadful." You know, I'm sure if we sit here for another 2 seconds, we could probably think of at least one band that has done that.
One.
I'll edit it. I'll edit out the second. I'll edit out the pause while we try and think of it. Let's look at the CD collection. Yeah. Okay.
So Slipknot.
So yes, back to them. Yes.
I can do it.
Go on.
I can do it. I think, my personal opinion, Disturbed. They ended the singles off Believe with Liberate, and I think that's by far a better single than Prayer.
Did they ever do a video for Liberate?
I don't know if they did a video.
It's a live one. But
it's definitely
not
a single.
It's not a live one. It's the actual track, but it's got live footage.
Yeah. They did with Down the Sickness. Yeah. That's where we're going to disagree. Liberate is a fucking fantastic song.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing that. And when we eventually get to Disturbed, spoilers for the future, I think Prayer is a stronger song. But we're talking about Slipknot now. We'll save Disturbed for a future episode. Stay tuned, listeners. But yeah.
Okay, so I'll go then. So I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the 14 songs on the album. The original release did have 15. It had Frail Limb Nursery on it, which
it's now not on.
It's now not on anything. You can't get it anywhere. It's not on Spotify unless you have the original release of Slipknot. It doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Does not exist, because I'd originally put 15 tracks in because Purity was on the original album, and then they took it off and left it off, and then they listed it off the first 2 releases, and then they've put it back in again.
Yeah, it's on at least the 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
It was a big thing about being put back on for the 10th
Yeah.
anniversary.
So I have 7 for me. What are standout tracks, and they are Sick, Eyeless, Surfacing, Spit It Out, Liberate, No Life, and Diluted. Notice there is no Wait and Bleed in mine.
No, there is not.
I like Wait and Bleed, and if I'd not heard Wait and Bleed, I wouldn't like Slipknot, because I don't think I'd have got into them. But
You think there are stronger
I
tracks?
think there's much better tracks on that.
Okay.
So you're whittling it down to 2 then, for purposes of a playlist. What?
I mean,
I've done 3 purely just to, because if you pick one of them and you pick one of them, then at least I've still got a third.
That's why I've picked 3.
So do I want to talk about it and then recommend?
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So open up, James, whatever. Go on, have a.
I didn't hear the first Slipknot album. Unlike Ghost, when I heard the first album as it was still the current album, not at the very beginning, but slightly later on. I heard Slipknot years after the event.
I'm still amazed there's not been a joke that I'm old.
It's coming. Don't
It's
worry.
time.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
You know. Again, we've been out of the loop for a bit. He's back into these recordings.
We've got time for this joke, unlike you, Grandpa.
Oh, there it is.
But yeah, so I heard it like years after. I mean, obviously, 'cause I remember going to Kiddie Corp and they played things like Wait and Bleed and things like that. So I heard it in that respect. So I heard the odd single.
Yeah.
But I didn't properly get into Disturbed until much later.
Disturbed?
Yeah, and Slipknot rather.
You got Disturbed on the Rain.
I got Disturbed on the Rain. I didn't get into Slipknot until much later, in their chronology at least.
Yeah.
So going back to it, I don't think the album for me has had as big an impact as it would have done as it would have had first listened to it when it first came out. I'm not denying how good it is, because it is a fantastic. There's a reason it's cited as being one of the best albums, because it's that good an album. But yeah, it is good, and I'd argue it has definitely stood the test of time. I would argue it definitely has.
Yeah, I would say, and it's always very important for me, and we've discussed it, especially when we spoke about Ghost, but when we spoke about other bands as well. There's the whole sort of path of thinking that if the band, the release that the current album that is out, that the band are touring, that's the album that you listen to first, because that's the one that they've just released when you got into them. So for me, that was Volume 3. That was the first one I bought, but the first Slipknot song I ever heard was Iowa.
First song you heard was Iowa?
No, the first song was from Iowa.
Oh,
It was,
right, okay.
Left Behind.
Right, yeah.
Back in the days of Scuzz.
Yes, because when Kerrang was good, yeah.
Yeah. So same as you really, my introduction to the self-titled effort was later. Like I said, Volume 3 had just been released at that point, so it was a case of retrospectively looking back on it for me. But when I did, I was blown away by it. Really, really impressed, which is why it features, I'll not say where, but rather high up in my list. I'm
Yes.
sure it does for both of you as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's people go on about Iowa being the most raw, reckless abandon, if you like, in Slipknot's entire discography or whatever. For me, it was that one. For me, it was a self-titled. I just thought it just it was more like a polished anger in Iowa for me.
Yeah, that's. I was talking to Emma about it the other day, and I said, if Slipknot, it's going to sound bad anyway, but if Slipknot had not better songs, but a better layout of the song, Slipknot is just raw. It's just aggressive for no reason as such.
Fun of it.
Whereas Iowa, they've turned that aggression into songs.
Exactly, yeah.
See, that's interesting.
I think Iowa is by far the most aggressive album they've done. But I think the song...
It's almost like they've done Slipknot and they've toured Metal Gods 2000 and all, all them sort of
Dynamo Open Air or whatever they are.
Now famous bits of footage of like band kicking shit out of each other on stage and throwing up into the masks and all that sort of thing. And I know it's nasty.
Bad time.
And they never
it's almost
watched
like they did that, and
then
then I'm pretty sure it probably didn't happen this way, but I feel like that approach to that album was because they were a bunch of angry kids. That was a genuine approach. Whereas with Iowa, it was almost like this kicking off business and kicking shit out of each other and whacking bins on stage. It's working for us, this lads. Let's do it again for Iowa, but let's sort of focus it a little bit.
It's interesting because when we get talking about Iowa, our opinions are already very different. I find Iowa a very uncontrolled album.
Really?
I find it a band raging against the fact they're now stuck in this system and they're just kind of bashing at the sides, trying to get out. Slipknot, don't get me wrong, they're both still, I agree with you, they're both still raw and they're not, and to an outsider, neither of them are particularly polished when you think to an outsider. But I totally disagree. I think Slipknot, the first album, has slightly more polish, not a lot, slightly more polish in the sense that I feel like the record was kind of a bit more over the shoulders going, it's good, but maybe not quite so aggressive. So it was a bit more reeled in. Whereas Iowa, because they were getting so big and they were massive.
Well, the reason I disagree, and I think it's possibly due to the fact that they have all developed as musicians in that time between. So the reason why I think Iowa sounds probably a bit more overproduced, a bit more polished, is because they have developed as musicians, as writers, whatever it is.
When we get onto Iowa, we'll talk. I'm not saying same record. Iowa's not a bad album, and it is relatively high in my list. So I'm just putting that out there. But again, it's where I would disagree. I would disagree. I think they have it because what's the difference between so 99 Slipknot came out, when did
2001.
So there's only 2 years.
And they
were touring for most of that.
They released Slipknot, I've just checked, June 29th, 1999.
Yeah.
It was recorded between September the 29th and November the 11th, 1998. And some of February 99.
So they went straight from releasing that into touring it, basically.
Pretty much.
Touring. Little bit recording time for Iowa. And also they've been writing on the road, because that's what a lot of bands do. Writing on the road and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of turnaround time. So though, I don't feel they have progressed that much between Slipknot and Iowa.
No, but if they've been playing live in that time, they're going to be figuring out how to do stuff on stage. Or they're not sitting down taking guitar lessons, but they're on stage, they're living it. So it's natural that they are better.
Yeah, I'm not saying they haven't, but I think it's not. I would say it's not a noticeable jump. I would argue between Slipknot and Iowa.
The only other point is the difference between the two. I think Iowa is a angrier album, which goes to what you say. Shit, we've now done this. We're now on this path of we've got a record deal. I don't want to be on this path. I just want to make some music. I don't want to be world's biggest band or whatever. I just want to get my shit out somehow. And I think it's a much angrier album.
Definitely so.
But yeah.
No, it's not.
We're not having the 3 hours debate of where Mallory's going over.
It's not that. It's showier as well. I always showier. It's fancier in the sense that it's more. It works better live.
Yeah, it was definitely written from the sense of they knew there was an audience for it now.
Yeah.
Because I think they could argue that when they did Slipknot, they weren't 100% sure if there was going to be an audience, if there was, how big it was going to be, whether it would be quite niche, whether, you know... Because obviously, because they kind of grew over the Ozfest tour, they went from being almost on a stage no one had ever heard of, and did they end up being on the main stage by the end of that cycle? So, in fact, didn't they come back round again still on the Slipknot first album? They'd gone up to the main stage.
Yeah.
So that proves that there was an audience ready for Slipknot, and I agree that Iowa was then written with that in mind, but... Yeah.
Interesting. Let's focus on Slipknot then, because we've clearly all got a lot to say about Iowa.
Yeah.
It's just a good album. I think that's the bottom line. It is just a good. There's a reason. Like I said, there's a reason it stood the test of time.
And nobody was doing that.
No one sounded like Slipknot at that point.
Because they did get lumped in with the new metal.
And there's
First
certainly,
album's class, isn't it?
certainly elements on I'm going to mention some of my standout tracks is they certainly come across as a new metal band.
But then they also changed to new metal, NEW.
Yeah.
They're one of the pioneers of the new metal.
of the new wave of heavy metal, as it were. Yeah. So what are your standouts, Jake?
I mean, I've not picked them out specifically, but I will just pick them out now as I'm looking through the things. So Sick, I think, is a perfect opener. I think they should, like Saratoga Ghost Division, I feel like they should always open with Sick.
Sick is,
even during the patchy live performances of the Volume 3 days, they opened with Sick during that touring cycle.
Yeah.
And even then, when Corey's voice was shot to shit and they were all sort of going off rails a bit with drugs and alcohol and whatever, various addictions, it's still an absolutely unbelievable, energetic opener. And I believe they use it just for opening at Encore now, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah, it's moved in the set now. Yeah.
But a lot of bands do.
No, yeah.
What used to open now closes, and what used to close now opens.
Yeah, because the one everyone wants to hear. Yeah.
Eyeless is obviously great. Another one, like Spit It Out, for example, has got the rap aspect of
Corey Taylor is my favourite rapper.
Whereas Eyeless...
Don't tell Corey Taylor that, he'll do another album.
Eyeless has got the Dex side of new metal, which is great. Wait and Bleed's good. Surfacing is obviously incredible, and when we saw them at Arena...
In fact, they opened with Surfacing that night. Because we broke the barricade broke that night, didn't it?
Did.
Was that on Lopez Ganto?
Yeah. Oh, because you were there. Were you there?
I was there.
And you were there. And you were there. Where were you then? Because we didn't know you at that point.
We were standing Sean's side.
So you were sort of stage left,
right.
is it?
Well,
Stage auditorium right, stage left.
Yeah.
We were on that side. Not pit, but not pit.
We were
it's basically just in front of Tech.
Yeah.
Area.
No, we were further up than that.
No, that's where we were. We were right in front of the tech area, which was fine until it came to Spit It Out.
Yeah.
Because we had nowhere to sit down, so I had someone, I'm not going to say his name in case he's listening, someone sat on my knee who was, at the time...
A larger gentleman.
Yes. But yes, he was on my knee for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't jump the fuck up right now, mate. My knees are fucked.
It's always fun. Because I don't know how many times I've seen them. I've seen them at festivals, I've seen them on their own tour, I've seen them quite a few times. And when you go to see them at a festival, and there's the fans that know what's coming when they go into Spit It Out, and as it gets to that bit, people already start going out. Me and Emma are always on floor, but there's people looking at us. What the fucking hell are they doing?
Surely by now most people know.
But there's people that are going to see him for the first time.
Yeah, but there's such a big band. Yeah, there's such a big band. That sort of must permeate a little bit. Sorry, we keep.
After that, I love Liberate. Only One is
Only One's a good song.
One of my. It's actually because I've only picked two. I love Get This as well though. Get This is such a good song.
Get This wasn't on the album.
Well done.
It wasn't on the original release.
Because
I've got an honourable mention.
Okay.
For Get This.
Okay. Well,
He can't go on because he's not on the album.
The two I would pick then, as much as I love Sick and Surfacing, the two I would pick are Spit It Out and Only One.
Okay. You've pretty much mentioned all of. I've only picked three because again, in case are we picking one or two each?
Well, those are my two. I think
I've got Spit It Out on mine.
You what?
I've got Spit It Out on my recommendations that I would put forward.
Well, So the three I'd recommend, the three I always come to on that album are Sick, because it is just such a fantastic open. Wait and Bleed, yeah, I know it's cliche, but there's a reason it's a single, because it was so strong. And the other one, Purity.
Yeah.
Purity has always been one of my favourite Slipknot songs ever, because that's on that album is when they first start showing the theatrical side of themselves. And I know it's taken off the album and then put back on again, but it's on the original release, so I can have it. Purity is when I really like, because especially when you listen to the album, when I was listening to the album the first time, it's all very aggressive, and then suddenly Purity comes in, you kind of go, oh, hang on, this is a bit of a gear change, but still distinctively Slipknot.
Yeah, it's still heavy and it's still got that Slipknot sound. The only reason why it doesn't make your mind, because I don't think it just goes through like not fast, and I just don't want that slowed down bit in it. With that first album, I just want to go through it.
For me, you've got to have the meat. You've got to have the meat and veg.
You have,
which is why.
And I think that's more apparent on the next album.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into.
Yeah.
So do you reckon we could go for one song each for the purpose of the playlist?
Yeah, definitely. So
I'm going to go spit it out.
So you're going Purity.
I'll go Purity.
Ooh.
I mean, that's the problem. There's far too many it could easily be.
So my three recommendations that I were going to put forward are Spit It Out, Liberate, and No Life. I think Liberate.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got
this playlist may be available at some point.
Yeah, hopefully.
So Spit It Out's on there. So we want Liberate and we want
Purity. Is there any more to be said about Slipknot, the album, not the band? I hope we're doing a lot more about Slipknot, the band.
So Spit It Out, Liberate, and
Purity. I think it speaks for itself. Like I said, there's a reason that it keeps coming up in sort of one of the albums you must listen to. I know Iowa does as well, but there's a reason that it comes up so often. I think there's a very distinctive reason for that.
Okay. That's had it.
Right. Well, in 2002, they released Iowa. The singles that were released from Iowa were Left Behind and My Plague. Again, only two.
Left Behind was my very, very firstest introduction.
And the version was like
to Slipknot. That was the first song I ever heard.
And the My Plague they released is actually different to the album version.
Yeah.
It's the Resident Evil. Yeah, but that was the first version I heard. I went, isn't one of the lyrics changed from I'm turning it around like a knife on the shelf to I'm turning it around like a book on the shelf or something?
Like
something
that,
really, really lame. Because even
it's a lyric in the first part that they changed. It's like, take a bite out of that stuff you call a heart.
Oh yeah, so
because it should be taken out of
shit you call a heart. Yeah, and also it's a lot more clean vocals in it as well, rather than the very
don't do the next level shouting in it. Yeah. The original version of the song's alright, but it's still probably, I'd say, really far down there as one of my least favourite Slipknot songs.
On my standout tracks, as much as I like both Left Behind and My Plague, I haven't named any singles on mine. Mine are People Equal Shit, Disaster Piece, Everything Ends, Heretic Anthem, Gently, The Shape, and New Abortion. They're like the ones that, and I don't think that Left Behind or My Plague beat any of them songs. In my opinion.
I wouldn't go for any of the singles.
I do like
My Plague and
Left Behind were the two singles.
Yeah, I like Left Behind, but I'd pick other songs above it on this album. I'd agree with People Equal Shit. I think, again, on that touring cycle for Iowa, the one at Hammersmith Apollo, Disaster Pieces.
Yeah.
That opening is absolutely ferocious.
Yeah.
People Equal Shit is amazing. But so I got People Equal Shit, I agree with that. Disaster Piece, I don't know whether I'm going to go with that as my favourite off the album. I love Disaster Piece. I think that bit where it goes back into it after the break, and I don't know if it's Clown making the noises or Sid on decks, but someone's making a horrific shrieking noise. Yeah. And it just
might be Chris, because Chris did a lot.
Yeah.
Of that. That sort of.
And it sounds like fireworks going off.
Yeah.
And it adds everything. Yeah, adds to it, doesn't it? It's just a wild song. Yeah. And of course, when you're at that age as well and you read lyrics, I want to slit your throat and fuck the wood. You're like, ooh, yeah.
Ooh, naughty.
That's grim. And then you go on to stronger stuff like Cannibal Corpse and you think, it's pretty tame, actually.
Yeah.
It's Disney metal, that, isn't it?
Yeah, My Plague, Not Fussed About. Everything Ends, good song. Heretic Anthem. I feel like, when I said to you the other day that this is like a great album for the singles, completely forgot that Heretic Anthem wasn't, but I thought it was. Because it's a popular one, it's always part of the set.
It's always part of the set.
Heretic Anthem.
That, to me, Heretic Anthem is almost... I don't want to say Disney metal like you just did, even though I know you're only joking, but it's almost like a... I don't know, if you're 555, I'm 666. It's a bit...
The point you're trying to make is the point I feel about the whole album.
Right, yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's very... And like I said, because they were angry young men at this point.
I think to some extent they still are, but
I'm sure
But they're angry young men with families and responsibilities now.
But I still think
they're
they're
angry
all-
middle-aged men
Yeah.
with families and responsibilities now.
I'm sure I've seen that on West End, that 9 Angry Men.
Well, 3 have just calmed the fuck down. No, yeah, I find with some of the songs on Iowa, it's very much kind of, I'm angry at the world, and this is what a teenage boy would think anger sounds like. And I feel that's where the aggression starts to run away with them a little bit. And I feel listening to the album, because when we first said we were going to do this, I listened to all the albums again, and the album ranking I had in my head completely changed when I listened to them again. I went, oh, okay, so that's going there now. But then I listened to them again over the past few days, and it's changed around completely again. And Iowa is the album that's jumped the most for me.
Iowa's the one, well, Iowa and the album that was above it are the ones that have swapped around for me today.
But yeah, I feel very much with Iowa, it's the tracks that are good are phenomenal. The tracks that are bad are some of the worst they've ever done, I would argue. And I feel that's more because, like I said, it's an aggression that they're running away with them, and they can't control it.
Would you say that? And I feel like we're kind of agreeing, but our reasons are different.
yeah.
Because Iowa's not a good distance away from my favourite album.
I was a good distance towards my favourite.
You mentioned about the writing for the 12-year-old angry boy in his bedroom.
And bear in mind that was a large portion of the audience at this point.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah. Whereas it felt like on Slipknot they were writing for themselves. They were writing for their anger. They were writing for their own pissed off selves. Whereas Iowa, they write it. This sells actually. Let's write.
I think it's
'Cause
clear.
The angry boy in his bedroom.
See what they want to hear, which is fine.
The difference in the 2 years, it's clear that when they wrote and recorded Slipknot, all right, they'd got a record deal, but they were probably all stuffing it up the noses, in the veins, whatever. Whereas when they got to Iowa, Slipknot had done so well, they'd got more money and thought, why don't we? It's a novel idea. Why don't we put some more into production? Because that'd be a good idea. And I think where you're going is they've probably gone a little bit too far.
But isn't it sort of, not that I know much about the history of the album, but isn't it sort of the most turbulent time in the band's history?
Volume 3 was most
the only one that was worse, I think, was Volume 3.
Because I'm sure I've seen articles when like Iowa's 10th anniversary was coming up of the album that almost destroyed Slipknot and things like that. All these articles going back out.
I think it was probably the most turbulent within the band. I don't in terms of where they were as rock stars, if you like. It was as much as any other period really in the career. But I remember reading that there were a lot more beef within the band, a lot more internal.
Yeah,
he's got
issues.
more notes than I have. And
isn't it from the Disaster Piece live show when Sid and Corey get literally just before they go on stage? There's a clip of them getting right into each other's faces. Literally, you can hear is it 515? 515 playing in the background. So they're getting ready to run on stage, and they're proper laying into each other. So it's obviously.
I do feel like that's kind of like a ritual though.
I think
it's like Till and Flake, the keyboard player in Rammstein. They're always having a barn at each other.
Well, so some people thrive off that. It's the confrontation, it pushes them forward. And obviously, it hasn't done any harm because Sid and Corey are still friends to this day and still working together. So obviously didn't do any harm. But I always thought it was very... And I felt that shows on the album, I'd personally say.
I mean, I'm not afraid to say Iowa's is my number one. And Slipknot, when I first got into them in 1999, Slipknot would never... That would always have been my number one. And then they released Iron, I went, right, okay, this is the one for me. So that's been number one for as long as I can think.
This looks like for a long time, it's not now, but for a long time, it was the bottom for me, Iowa. It was
never been close to
very
bottom,
but it was the very bottom for me. I'm not saying when, because that may spoil what comes on later.
Yeah.
But for a while, yeah, Iowa was my. If I was to look at my CDs, Iowa was never the one I picked out.
If somebody said you can only have one Slipknot album, that's it. I'd have Iowa
Okay.
every day. You couldn't pay me enough money to take that off me. I'd have that. That would always be in my rotation of CDs.
It's interesting as well because you always look at these things from a sat at home listening to it or driving to work or walking somewhere and you've got your headphones on. That's one experience. We all know it's something far different when you're seeing it live.
Oh, God.
And I do think the Iowa songs live hit harder because they're more energetic, because they've upped everything. They do hit harder. So, yeah, I suppose live it's a better album than it is as an album.
I can't remember if I saw them on the back end of Iowa tour or it was the start of Volume 3. I saw them close to...
Where did you see him at? Download it?
I think they played... They definitely played Download in 2005, which was definitely...
That was Volume 3.
That was Volume 3. Definitely that was.
Because Volume 3 was what, 2004?
Mm-hmm. 4.
Yeah. Just conferring with the notes. Yeah, I can't remember when it was that I saw them. I didn't see them on the Iowa tour, then they would have just released Volume 3.
Right.
So I didn't see them on the first 2 tours, but I've seen everything's been from Volume 3 onwards.
Is this a nice segue into Volume 3?
We haven't picked a song.
So no, it's not.
I'll shoot up there.
Don't prematurely segue. Don't prematurely
segue.
segue.
Can segue to Volume 3, but pick your song first.
Okay, as I mentioned, Gently needs a special mention. Gently is such a good song.
Gently was on mine. That was one of mine.
So again, I mean, it's a good song, but it's never one I'd come back to. Gently.
It's because, and again, this goes back into what I was saying about Slipknot in the live setting. On that Disaster Pieces show, Gently is amazing because they've got like the snow effect and the change of
It's
camera.
been a long time since I watched that show.
Yeah, it's really good. But I think it's got to be Disaster Piece for me.
Mine's never changed. It's my favourite Slipknot song, but it's never
Everything
changed.
Ends.
Everything ends. Just the open, you are all fucked and overrated. I think I'm going to be sick. It's your fault.
It's a choice between 2 for me because Disaster Piece was one of my 3 picks. So yeah, it's great. It's between Heretic and Left Behind.
My other 2 was the Shape or New Abortion.
Of your 2, I'd pick Left Behind any day.
Again, I feel there's a reason that as much as I love Heretic, and I have wonderful memories of like being in Corporation, singing it along with everyone. But I think as a standalone song itself, Left Behind is a stronger song. There's a reason that one gets played a lot. If you go to any rock bar, if they're going to play a Slipknot song, that's probably up there with one of the ones that
again. Live, it's the bit where Sid jumps off something really, really high.
Was that during Left Behind?
Yeah.
And what, breaks both his ankles?
It's the one where he usually breaks his ankles.
Yeah. Alright, they're on. They're added.
Just one day I'm expecting him to jump off something. Do you know, sort of like pogo stilts? Like circus. He'll just go boing, boing, just bounce through the car.
Thinking something more like he lands and goes, ah! Oh. I didn't know.
I didn't break anything.
Hey, I'm okay! And then just side
When
swipes.
Kevin Nash don't tear his quads.
Okay, Jake, do you want to segue into Volume 3?
Go on then, Volume 3. Turbulent Time in Slipknot history. Released in 2004.
Released in 2004.
Recorded at Houdini's mansion.
Was?
I know stuff about that because
Because of his book.
because of Corey Taylor's book.
Very haunted. Very haunted.
Is it at that point when he was drinking a bottle of vodka before he got out of bed, or Jack, or whatever it was?
It was a bottle of something he shouldn't have been drinking.
That same time where he woke up completely from like he blacked out and woke up, stood on the railing of a very high hotel balcony. And had to be pulled down. Okay.
Sure, it was a good time. Although, side note, it's called Houdini's mansion, but Houdini never stayed there.
No,
it's a complete misnomer.
It was his property, weren't it? But he's never stayed there.
Yeah, something like that. He has a link to it, but he never actually stayed there. I need to read his book again. His books are, to be fair, very good.
The earlier ones are.
See, I think they get stronger, the books. 7 Deadly Sins
is... funny thing happened on the way to the heaven.
Is the best one. Seven Deadly Sins is good, but it's very heavy. It's a very heavy book. But sorry, back to the album.
Discuss Corey Taylor.
The singles of Volume 3, and there were many of them.
Was there?
Blister exists.
That was the last single they released.
Duality was the first.
These are in order of how they released them. Duality, Vermilion. Apparently Vermilion Part 2.
Yeah, there's
I
a
didn't realise.
video and everything.
I didn't realise they did part 2 as a single.
I didn't realise they did part 2 as a
Have
single.
you not seen the video? It's like the girl who's in the Vermilion video, you know, the stalking.
I have seen.
And she's in a tree.
I have seen it.
I mean, it's going to be lost on YouTube, seeing as you've not watched Series 4 of Stranger Things, but she's full on, like, gets vectored up into a tree. She's in.
I didn't know Kate Bush was in Slipknot.
She is, yeah.
Oh. I mean, that
she's
kind
the
of
one with the. No, I'm not
that kind of explains a lot, you know.
After
Is it Sid with all the spike? Is that really Kate Bush?
After Vermilion Part 2,
Great.
Before I Forget, they also released The Nameless.
Did they?
Apparently, according to my sources, Nameless was released, and Blister Exists was the last one. When this album came out, because I enjoyed Iowa so much, regardless for me of how bad this album sounds, because I think it sounds terrible, I think the production is just off completely.
The production is great. His voice is off.
No,
He's so better produced. So
no, I don't mean. But how they've mixed it then.
Quality.
All the like. Whereas you put on
This is where we're
Slipknot,
going to fall out. On
we
this
are
one.
we are very much going to fall out on this one, because this is like after listening to all the Slipknot albums, this is now bottom for me. This has gone, and when this come out, I absolutely loved this album, because Iowa was the first one that I got into, having known who Slipknot were, and I was like, so that to me was their debut album, because essentially, and this was the second. Oh, it's gonna be fucking great. It's gonna be great, and just listening back to it, normally it's just like that, just fucking wall of sound and everything comes at you. You got guitars, drums, percussion, whereas this one, everything's really just set back, and it's just not.
It's not though. I don't understand how you can hear that album and not think that it's okay. I'm not denying it sounds different, but the energy and the frantic nature of like the drums and the guitars sounding all weird, it's there. Like
I don't get that energy at all.
3-0, and that's going to be one of my picks. It's going to be my pick actually. Is so it's better written lyrically than a lot of Slipknot
I
stuff.
agree with
The
that
lyrics
stuff.
are it's groovy.
Up to that point, it's the best lyrically they've ever done.
Yeah. It also, fun little fact, it features one swear, which is weird for a Slipknot album, which I believe is in the intro to Pulse of the Maggots. Pulse of the Maggots.
Yes, this is the year. Well,
Yeah. Great song.
I like the fact that on Volume 3 there's a cameo from some ghosts.
Yeah.
Is it the end of Before I Forget that's got the weird...
I remember hearing Tobias on that album.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Nobody knows it's Tobias.
Sorry, they don't at this point, do they?
Sorry, Papa... Oh, you suppose he wouldn't have been Papa Emeritus by that point. He'd been a
They'd
cardinal.
been 16 at that point.
He'd been Cardinal Emeritus. Or at least Father Emeritus. Anyway, side note away. Yeah, it's the end of Before I Forget. It's because obviously they were saying that Houdini Mansion was haunted. They recorded a song. I think it's Before I Forget, and they
said that they got into machines and were involved in so much.
Because they finished recording, and then when they came back the next day to whatever that track, the Ghosts had just done that to the track, and they thought, well, we're keeping
That's
it.
cool.
Yeah.
We're keeping it. I think they thought also it's kind of like, well, we won't piss him off because he obviously wanted to say something, so we're going to keep this as a kind of, well, here's you getting your message out, whatever it may be.
Yeah, whatever the message is.
It's a good little. To be fair, saying the Ghost did it, it sounds like a perfect Slipknot interlude type song, doesn't it? It sounds
sort of shit that Sean composes anyway.
Exactly. So it took years for us to go, oh yeah, that actually isn't Slipknot. But yeah, that's a lovely little bit of.
I think the other thing is I don't think the aggression's there on this one.
It's a different type of aggression.
It's a different type, but if we're saying that Iowa was a more controlled one, this has got even more controlled. This is just.
But doesn't that show a?
This was meant to get singles. This was meant to get them to the top level.
Doesn't that show a maturity there? A maturity in the fact that they are now, because they are heading towards that stage where they're blowing out essentially on this album, aren't they? This is the blowout album. It's this touring cycle, which actually turns a lot of them around to a cleaner way of living.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can say it was one of your favourites when you first heard it. And it's
I don't think it was one of my favourites when I first heard it.
No, you say you loved the album.
I loved it
Sorry,
when it first came out.
You loved the album when you heard it.
I don't, and I said this to James, I don't know if it's because I've listened to every album back to back. I've really heard the change in sound.
Yeah.
Because you go then to All Up Is Gone, and that's gone back to Iron Slipknot. That just jumps right back in.
But when you're talking about the difference between Volume 3 and All Hope Is Gone. How many is it? 5 years between?
3.
Only 3 years between.
2 years
3.
between the first two. Yeah, 2001 Iowa and 2004 Volume 3.
So when did All Hope Is Gone come out?
2008.
That's 4 years, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about the one before it.
No,
yeah,
it
4
doesn't-
years between.
Yeah, so quite a lot happened, especially between individually. There's quite a lot musically
Well,
happens
they
between them.
did tour for about 3 years on that cycle, didn't they?
That's true.
I saw it download 3 times
On the
Volume
Volume 3
tour cycle.
Yeah. No, it's right. I see. Again, I said I think I was less control, but I'd say Volume 3 is more control. To me, that's the record stepping back in, going, whoa, guys, let's bring it back. And like you said,
maturity.
it's like you said, right, we need to sell some more records. And you need to make some singles now. We want to get to number 1. Which is where Duality comes in and Before I Forget comes in, because they are some of the most radio friendly, especially to that point.
Still like Duality. You know, if that comes on somewhere and I'm like,
It's a calling.
Yeah.
It's like the opening riff to Surfacing.
Yeah.
You hear the opening, you go, what? Again, like Before I Forget, you hear the
Yeah.
your ears prick up and go, I'm ready. You know, it's very well musically. It's very well written, I think.
But I think as well at this point, this was where people had actually started finding out who these people were.
Yeah, they would know because
It was very much like Kiss up to this point. That Kiss never appeared out of makeup.
they were always Star Child, Demon, and
and then
all that.
once it hit the 80s and they started taking the makeup off, there were for Kiss in the 80s there were people with rewards out, newspapers. If you can get me a picture of any member of Kiss, I'll give you 50 grand or whatever it was at the time. People wanted to see them, and this was kind of what was going off at this point. People then knew who Corey Taylor was because he'd released.
Stone Sour,
Stone
first
Sour
album
had
being
come
out
out at that point. So then we knew who Jim Root was because Jim Root were in Stone Sour as well.
Because I remember that making random side because this proves my age as well. I remember when Corey and Jim first took the masks off for the Bother video, it making the news on CD UK with Anton Deck. That's how big. Even a small, not small, but like a Saturday morning kids show about music was reporting on Slipknot reviews. So I suppose that proves how big Iowa got.
I'm pretty sure the only one that people are still don't know what it looks
Craig.
like. It's Craig, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Craig's because even I think the only time I've seen his face was when they did the press conference after Joey died, not after Paul died rather.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything. Well,
He just pushed the microphone down.
Yeah.
He didn't say a thing. But that's the only time I've seen his face.
But also, I think Stone Sour creeps into this one.
You
Well,
think?
this is something I was going to say is because it's the first time that a lot of people are noticing that there's a band called Slipknot and hey look at these, there's 9 guys and they wear masks. It's also the first time that a lot of bald-headed ginger people are saying things like, they're going soft now and they're Stone Sour.
More on the
I
next.
joke, of course.
More on the next album. Yeah, I got fed up of hearing going, "Oh, it's just Stone Sour. It's Stone Knot or
Slip Sour.
Slip Sour."
Yeah.
Which okay, actually quite like that as a name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was more so when we get to All Hope Is Gone. But yeah, I was fed up of hearing that because, like you said, they start to mature. Okay, maybe not maturing on this album.
And I agree that it is the first album. I mean, Gently, it went full Slipknot at the end of the song anyway.
Yeah.
But even the more melodic sort of opening and middle section, it was tortured still.
Yeah.
It was very in keeping with the rest of the album. Whereas the quieter songs, such as Vermilion, for example, and certainly Vermilion Part 2, they are the ballads, essentially.
Yeah.
Aren't
But
they?
that's
They
it.
are ballady.
Go back to the first album, Purity.
But it's
still
really
in keeping
though,
with-
But I don't. But it's natural. If you can hear Purity, and Purity could fit on Volume 3. Purity could fit on All Hope Is Gone. That sound. It's a
It could fit on All Hope Is Gone. I don't
It's
think
a
it would fit
natural.
on-
People say
I would like them to, I would like them to re-record Volume 3 now,
yeah, especially with Corey's vocals being better.
and
But
just to see what it would do.
But would you change the delivery? Because the way that Corey delivers a lot of it is because his voice is fucked. So like Duality is a lot of talking because he just can't sing.
I would like Duality to go a little bit more like Spit It Out.
A faster rap almost.
Yeah. Not because it's in that keeping of
I suppose. Yeah.
Spit
Is
It
it,
Out.
yeah.
But whereas Spit It Out bounces a little bit more, it's more spoken, as you say.
Yeah. Okay. But I, for me, Volume 3 for a long time was just above Iowa. It's like I listened to it a little bit more, but
I would have before re-listening to these again, I would have probably, in just off the top of my head, put Iowa, Slipknot, and then in order, Volume 3, All Up Is Gone, Grey Chapter, and We Are Not Your Kind. That re-listening to them now has changed, but I don't know if, like I say, it's because I've listened to everything
Yeah, you listen to
in one block.
Yeah, quite quick succession.
So I've noticed a difference in it. Because when it comes back to All Hope Is Gone, that's just like a return to what they were. They've forgotten that era of it. They've kept some of the more singier parts.
It's a happier middle ground, I
Yeah.
think, between for All Hope Is Gone rather.
So my standouts were Blister Exists,
Mm-hmm.
Opium of People, Pulse of Maggots, Before I Forget, and Virus of Life. They were my standout ones from it. Because they are, for me, the exception of Before I Forget, I think Before I Forget is great. I just think that does keep some of the anger and some of the aggressiveness of the
Before I
music.
Forget is one of my least favourite Slipknot songs.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre that, I know, because it's an absolute crowd
a banger.
pleaser. And it's got a great sing-along chorus, but...
But again, it has, to me, lost. It doesn't really scream in it that much. Because he can't, but...
But it's still a Slipknot song.
Yeah, it's still a Slipknot
You still
song.
hear it and go, that's
Oh, yeah.
Slipknot. Even at the time.
But again, I think that's like Iron Maiden. They've got that gallop. Slipknot have got that very distinctive
Yeah,
tone.
yeah,
and
when
that's Mick.
Yeah,
Someone
when you
we've
hear
not mentioned
Mick,
in
Yeah,
the
start
start,
off-
Mick,
yeah.
he's got such an iconic
yeah,
guitar
I
sound.
think Mick is really the unsung hero in Slipknot. I think is a lot of the power, a lot of the distinctive sound.
It's a
It's
label. It's a label that Slipknot don't get given a lot, and that's the groove metal.
yeah,
But they are so groovy because of his guitar.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
And we'll get onto it as an honourable mention because it doesn't feature on the album, but We Are Not Your Kind song. It's called We Are Not Your Kind.
Yeah.
Again, after the break, his guitar as the chant in We Are Not Your Kind.
Yeah,
is so
no, you're
groovy.
right. Yeah, I hadn't
Yeah.
thought about
It's
that.
such a bopper.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Blister Exists. I love that.
It's just that opening drums.
I see for the drums, but for later on in the song when Clown and Sean have to do like the military
Yeah,
little
The-
drum
that-
like gone wrong thing.
I think Blister Exists that does keep a bit of the aggression because when it screams 1, 2, 3 and it just goes fucking mental at the beginning. Then I like that break there, that sort of breakdown as such. I like that bit.
3-0 will always be my favourite on this album simply because I think it's very well written, it's catchy, and it's.
See, I never have. I know the lyrics of these songs, but I can't put. You two put imagination to them. And you put what you. Like you said what with when you did your albums of 2021, the Liverpudlian black metal band or whatever it were. You said it put you right where
in a
it should have
particular
done.
area.
I just hear a song
Yeah.
and I like the song.
Okay.
I don't. Not that I don't listen to the lyrics. I just.
I
I'm
don't.
one of them arty-farty poetic.
I'm not
types,
well,
so-
but it's like I'd love to write a song. I'd love to write a song. I'd love to be able to write a poem, and I'd love to be able to read books and put imagination
We're,
to
te-
it.
we're, te-
never
we're
read-
teaching you to read. Don't worry, Rob. You'll get there. We're teaching you to read.
I've never read
A book. Yeah, but again, depending what the song is, sometimes it's just kind of, oh, that's fun. I like that song.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is, oh, it puts me in that place.
Yeah.
And for me,
It
more
doesn't
than
happen with every song.
No.
for more often than not, for bands like Slipknot, it's just kind of like, oh, I like the feel of that song.
It's a feeling, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
always a
for bands
feeling.
like Slipknot, it's a feeling of the song.
Absolutely.
And that's why I didn't. Now listening back, I don't get that feeling anymore. I did when it came out, but I don't get it now.
For me, for Volume 3, again, I've only picked 3. Pulse of the Maggots, I think, is a brilliant sort of call to arms type song. I love the anthemic song.
It's the band plus the audience.
Yeah, which
The unsung 10th member.
which is what I'd argue they tried to do with Heretic Anthem on Iowa, but they did it better.
Far
They
better,
did it
yeah.
better with Pulse of the Maggots.
Yeah.
Duality, like I say, yeah, that comes on in a club or anything like that. You're in the pit. It's one of the few songs I will pit to in a club.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't
But
really pit,
they had-
but I will pit to that.
They'd got the Maggot fan club, hadn't they, at this point, and so the Pulse of the Maggots.
They knew what they were doing with it.
You were in.
Yeah.
If you were in that fan club, you were.
And again, it's just like I said. I know someone mentioned it before, but it's that wall of noise behind Corey shouting. That is, it's the whole band are releasing on that song.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I think Duality is a fantastic song, and Vermilion for showing the other side of Slipknot.
It manages to keep such a creepy.
I remember a lot of. I'd say Vermilion as one big track, but the original and part 2. I mean, if you're gonna push me, I'd say, all right, fine, part 1.
I liked it.
But I think they work best in contrast.
Yeah.
I think you've got listen to part 1 and then it going into part 2 to hear the other side of the coin of that song. I think it's really powerful. Because I remember when it first came out. So again, I was just starting to listen to a bit more of Slipknot. I wasn't into them, but I was listening to more of them when Volume 3 came out. And people I knew who were really into Slipknot, who were going, "Oh, Vermilion Part 2 is the worst thing they've ever done." They were swearing it down, and I go, "Oh right, okay." And I listen to it, going, "It's fine." And then years have gone by, and listened to it together as part of the bigger whole. I'm going, "Yeah, it really works as kind of a contrast song." I think it's again, I think they're my 3 picks. Yeah, Pulse, Duality, and Vermilion.
So what's your one song, Rob? I've gone with 3-0. It's already added. No one else is picking that.
I didn't even put it as one of my things anyway. So.
No accounting for taste.
I think Blister exists.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be Blister exists.
Pulse the Maggots then. If you're going to push me, Pulse the Maggots.
That were on my list.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only one I would have put on, I think, with Virus Alive. I just think it's just a good middle between where they were and where they.
It was the one when we first said we were going to do this. Volume 3 is the album I struggled to bring to mind the most.
Okay.
Even though I said I was one of my least favourite, it was the one. Well, practically the one I struggled with the most to come. And I'll explain when we get on.
First Slipknot album I bought, so a lot of it does stick in my mind.
Which is weird, I think, because other than Psychosocial, I think Duality is probably more of a well-known.
Oh, no,
if you ask somebody random off street, do you know Duality?
Would you say it's their most well-known song?
I'd say Psychosocial's now.
I think
Psychosocial. Up until that came out, it was Duality, but then Psychosocial. Because even people who don't like Slipknot, well, this is a Duality.
Or before I forget, because it were on Guitar Heroes and stuff.
But I'd still say Duality, for most casual listeners, Duality will come higher. Yeah, the 2 songs that most casual listeners to will be Duality or Psychosocial. Again, Psychosocial's on one of the Guitar Heroes, I think.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's download pack.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, All Hope Is Gone then.
2008 got released. The singles were, and I got this completely wrong. All Hope Is Gone was the first single.
First single off it, yeah.
I thought Psychosocial was the first single off it.
It was like 2 or 3 months before, wasn't it? It was quite
Dead Memories, Sulphur, and Snuff. They were in order of release.
All Hope Is Gone is the album I first properly got into Slipknot.
Yeah.
I love All Hope Is Gone.
All Hope Is Gone, I think, is a fantastic.
I think I like it as an album more than my top pick, but it's not my top pick.
Okay.
I remember when All Hope Is Gone come out and Debbie bought it. I think by the end of Volume 3, I think I was starting to get jaded with it anyway, Volume 3. And I said, I hope they've come back. I hope it's no more of that shit. I hope they've come back. And I listened to Gematria and just went, all right, okay, I've been saved.
Such a good song. You know what struck me upon first listening to that? Because it's got a great intro as well. That what's the opening track called?
It's
Execute.
And then it goes into Gematria, doesn't it?
That is a great, because it's got sort of like that weird typical Slipknot, something weird happening noise wise, but then you got Corey sort of starts off muttering underneath and then it sort of builds and builds, but then drums kick in, that drum roll. I remember listening to it on a new CD player I got at the time, which had got a bass amplifier on it, and the rest of it I was like, oh yeah, this is building nicely, and then them drums kicked in and it was just like proper pounding in my head. I was like, okay, this is good, and then it kicks into opening track. But what struck me is just how good his voice were compared to last album.
Oh God, there's such distinct improvement. He's looking after himself.
Rough. Yeah, it was brilliant. The opening lyrics of that song, 12/8/73, that's all I got, and now you got me. I was like, yeah. Dry sockets and a schizophrenic crisis. I don't know what any of it means, but I like it.
I think All Hope Is Gone is. I'll say it now. All Hope Is Gone is my number 1 pick.
Yeah.
All Hope Is Gone is my number 1.
But is that because that's when you got?
I think no. Listening back, it is the perfect blend of the heavy aggression from the early stuff, the more melodic stuff they start experimenting with like Gently and Purity and Volume 3, so more melodic. I don't want to say radio friendly because I think a lot of stuff. Taking out the singles from All Hope Is Gone. That's not a radio friendly album.
No.
People use radio friendly as an insult anyway.
Yeah, it's. I think
this is why Nirvana recorded Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. as a song to take the piss out of the people.
Yeah.
You want me to release this song?
Here it is.
Here
Yeah.
it is. There you go.
Yeah, and it's that kind of it's become a slur, and I think it's unfair. But yeah, so there were some tracks they've obviously designed that were written and with the idea of going, well, this will get a bit of radio play, this will get some more fans to us, and then when they get the album, they'll hear what Slipknot's really about. They'll hear what Slipknot can really do when we let loose. And I think by All Hope Is Gone, they got to the point where the record label was basically going, you can do what you want pretty much now. You've solidified, for lack of a better term, your legacy. You are Slipknot now. You know, it was on the All Hope Is Gone tour. They headlined Download for the first time.
You've got a brand to fulfil now. Because people have got an expectation.
So yeah, be the brand of Slipknot. So they were let loose. Obviously, there would be still some knockback from producers.
Well, I think that's what Butcher's Hook is about, isn't it? It's about the recording industry.
Yeah.
It's a scathing indictment of the recording
That's when the
industry.
aggression is more focused, I find, on All Hope Is Gone. I mean, you can also say that the aggression wasn't there in some places because they'd all cleaned up. They did for the most part they'd cleaned up and fought their demons. Yeah. Not everyone, obviously, because some people are still battling their problems.
No, not anymore. He's dead.
Well, no, Jim is well. Apparently, he's not.
No, was it?
Oh, at least last I heard about Jim, which was a while ago. Admittedly, he was still having. Cause that's why he left Stone Sour. Because Corey but he left Stone Sour but stayed part of Slipknot, which I always found a bit weird.
But because he weren't in Slipknot first, were he? He were in Stone Sour first.
But Stone Sour is Corey's band.
Yeah.
Slipknot is Clown and was Clown and Joey. Well, Clown, Joey and Paul's band. Not anymore.
Which is the last album to feature Paul as well.
Yes, so it's the end of an era as well. All Hope Is Gone. It's an end of an era.
It does kind of feel like that, I think, as an album.
But are you saying that in retrospect?
I don't know. Again, I've just re-listened to it, so maybe, but I don't know.
There's definitely a marked shift from this to the next two albums.
Wasn't that going to be the last album anyway, though?
I don't think so. I mean, not that I've heard. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't, but I didn't ever heard that.
Fun little fact about the album, and it's more from a journalistic perspective, but the first time a mainstream media outlet had ever attached thrash to Slipknot. And that was the song Snuff.
Nice.
Not Snuff, sorry, Sulphur.
Right. That makes more
sense.
I was like, what? So, yeah, okay, yeah.
That classic 80s thrash metal song, Snuff.
I remember Dead Memories when that first came out. That got so much hate.
I loved it.
It was, as soon as I heard of it, yep. In fact, again, the memories that stick with you for no apparent reason. I know exactly where when you first played me Psychosocial. We were in Richard's garden.
Really?
We were in Richard's garden having a
was it when we'd wandered around trees?
Yeah. And for something else. And what?
Hang on.
What?
Gematria, however you pronounce it. I do feel like that was, as good a song as it is, there was an element of knowing their own, what they've got to deliver and being self-aware, essentially.
Like Slipknot by numbers, almost.
Not in that respect, more in a sense
they know what they've got to put out.
Yeah, well, yeah, essentially, yeah. They know that because the lyrics, "We will burn your cities down," it's very much we're coming to your city and we're playing this shit, and it's going to be, it's kind of like a themed, yet twee reference to the fact that they're going to be on tour with it.
Yeah.
My standout track's not really what I'm recommending, but Gematria, Sulphur, Psychosocial, Butcher's Hook, The Coal Black, Snuff, and All Hope Is Gone. Honourable mention of Till We Die because it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Till We Die is incredible. Can we just put Till We Die on anyway?
Can that be an honourable? Because Till We Die is possibly one of the best things they've
ever.
ever.
We'll just agree that Till We Die is going right.
As a bonus, Till We Die is the bonus track.
Yeah. The bonus track to the playlist.
Yeah. Can you please release what's it called? Look Through the Window. Whatever it's called. This mystery album that they recorded at the same time.
It was meant to be released last year.
And I know it was meant to release the same time as All Hope Is Gone originally as well.
So it's what now? It's Corey, Sean, Sid,
and Jim, I think.
Jim.
Yes, it's four of them.
Yeah.
And it's because Till We Die, and it's a sign when we saw them headline Sonosphere. In fact, two things because it was the outro song both on the All Hope Is Gone tour and at Sonosphere. It was the outro song.
They played it at the end of when we saw them at Arena most recently as well.
Did they?
Yeah.
I forgot that.
It's now their PA song.
Oh,
it's now their go home.
So yeah, so seeing them, so that same outro song, both at the Arena from the All Hope Is Gone tour, where they're all quite happy and hey, Slipknot in a great place, and then hearing it again in the exact same place at Sonosphere, the exact same song was so much more powerful. just that bit. Because again, the song hasn't changed. It's exactly the same recording, the exactly same, and exactly the same point in the set. It was.
It's different knowing what's happened.
But it hit really powerfully at the arena because it was like, oh yeah, we're all together till we die. And then at Sonosphere, it was like, God, this is bleak. God,
that was for me. Just again, we've spoke about that Sonosphere gig, and I didn't think it was as good because they built up that it was going to be so emotional, and the only bit that was really emotional was that bit
at the end
when they brought out his boiler suit, his original boiler suit with the pig mask, and Joey just went up and hugged the suit.
It was on stage. Wasn't it on stage the entire time?
It was on stage,
roughly,
but they put it right in the middle of
the day as well. Though,
it was on stage. It was on the second stage at one point because there was like a minute silence or something, wasn't there? But then during the set, it was roughly where he stood for most of a Slipknot show. Sort of next to
he was
next to Craig. Was he next to Craig? Near Craig, or at least?
He was usually to the left hand side of Corey. So there's across the front. There's normally Sean, Mick, Corey, Jim, Paul, I think, and then Sid's on the far side.
See, I thought Paul and Jim were the other way round.
They might have been.
Thought Paul. And it doesn't really matter, but
it looks like Jim's right next to him at Sonosphere there.
I love that picture. I absolutely love it because the rain just started to come down. I love that picture.
That was good.
Sorry, people who can't see, I've got a poster from the Sonosphere gig on the ceiling of the cabin.
On the subject of Paul, they released the live set from. Well, they actually released it. No, they released it after, I think, after Paul had died. The download one.
Mm. They were always going to release it.
Yeah, they were
talking about things hitting differently. There's a bit as they're all doing the going on stage huddle.
Oh, they go, yeah. Where's Paul?
Corey goes, "Where's Paul?" And he weren't dead at this point.
No,
he was absent at that point.
He weren't there. He was just somewhere else.
Yeah, that was.
And I remember watching it with Joe, and we both looked at each other and went, "Fuck."
Yeah. But yeah,
you like that one?
What's that?
You like that song?
Download, yeah.
So Till We Die, yeah, it's got to go on. So what were your other songs? Sorry, going back several.
All Up Is Gone, Snuff, The Coal Black, Butcher's Hook, Psychosocial.
It's a great album.
Yeah, again, re-listening to it, it was a lot better than what I remembered it. So I was.
It's such a good album.
It is a good album.
So what's your pick then, Rob?
Well, the three that I'd picked, in case any of you two had picked more, were Gematria, Butcher's Hook, or All Up Is Gone. And I'm going to go with All Up Is Gone.
Cool. I'll go with Gematria then.
The only one left for me to pick is Snuff.
I'm sorry.
Snuff is, no matter what you say, okay, it's not Slipknot, it's slowed down. Yeah. I'm sorry. Snuff is one of the heaviest songs that they've recorded. Not heavy.
Thematically.
Thematically, not musically. I know this is a debate for a future podcast, but you can't deny that is a heavy song.
I think
it's heavy, and it's one of the most emotionally raw I think Slipknot have ever been. They let themselves be opened up on that song.
Was it Download when they did Gently Into Snuff?
I can't remember.
I think at that show they did Gently Into Snuff as a back to back.
Okay, that would work really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I Snuff, you can't deny how good a song that is.
I seem to remember reading an interview around All Hope Is Gone where because Sean directed the video.
Is it Malcolm McDowell in the video?
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell, which is amazing. And I remember him saying around the process of writing the song, it were all Corey. It were a personal. He didn't go into detail, but he said this is a personal thing on Corey's part, and I just let him loose. Basically, I just let him do that. I just let him, because Sean's band leader, isn't he, essentially, and he just said that was his thing, and I let him come to me with these lyrics, and I could tell it was really hard for him. I
think
could
it
tell
was about
it was
Volume 3,
emotional.
wasn't it? And his dark, like how he felt that.
I think it was a mixture of topics. That was about a really bad breakup he had as well.
Like the waking up at the top of the hotel and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never read specifically what, but I remember that interview with Sean saying it's his thing and it's a personal thing to him, and I just let him bring it to me, and I could tell that it was both the most painful thing that he's ever put on paper, but also quite a liberated thing for him as well to be able to get it out there in his medium. So yeah, Snuff's incredible.
I mean, Snuff I put up there with Johnny Cash's version of Hurt. It's a fantastic song. It's emotional as balls, and it brings the mood down at any party when you put it on. But no one can deny how good a song it is. So we're on to the Grey Chapter.
Released in 2014, first one post Paul. and we'd got the guy from Crocodile. Or did he not record the album though?
No, I think who they've got in, so V-Man and
Jay White.
Jay White, they I'm pretty sure they recorded the album.
Did
Don't
they?
hold me. I thought they did. Maybe
I know Jay Weinberg did, but I
Weinberg.
don't know if.
Yeah, Weinberg definitely did because the negative one people assumed was about Joey.
Yeah, they did for a long time.
Yeah. I know Jay Weinberg definitely did record it, but I'm not so sure that they did.
Find out because I have the CD here.
Whether they did use.
Let's see. This is who recorded. It.
I mean, he's there.
He is. Yeah, he's on the but that's the promo shot for the negative one. That
Yeah.
negative one or Devil and I rather.
Devil and I, yeah. Again, with the Sonosphere set, it was supposed to be really emotional. And I didn't get that feeling. Again, calling the album Grey Chapter was supposed to be all about Paul. It was supposed to be.
It's without a doubt their worst album cover.
Definitely, yeah.
The
Sexy
sexy
skeleton.
lady.
Yeah.
Sexy skeleton.
I don't know. There's no credits in this sleeve.
But the
It
emotion.
just says recorded by Slipknot. So whoever Slipknot was at that point
time,
recorded it. Yeah.
The singles were -1, Devil in Eye, Custer, Kill Pop, and Goodbye.
I didn't know.
I didn't know Goodbye was a single. I did not know that.
It might not have been everywhere, but it was certainly released as a single in some territories.
I agree with you to some extent. I feel like the hype that was built up around it being his first album since Paul, it's going to be a very cathartic experience.
And it probably was for them.
It probably was
Yeah.
them, but as a listener coming in, I didn't get that. I found it a very muddled, very subdued album. I
First
find.
listen through, I hated it. Absolutely hated
No, I loved it.
I loved it.
First album through, I loved it. I remember.
It's jumped as well since listening to it again. I think it's such a good album.
I remember listening to it a lot. We and Joe came down when you still lived in
When you
London.
came down to London,
And Joe was like, "Oh, you've got that new Grey Chapter, haven't you?" I was like, "Yeah, can we listen to it?" "Yeah, sure." So we listened to it 3 times on the way down, and then on the way back, I think we listened to it twice. And Joe went, "Put something else on." It's like, "You're the one who put the CD on." But yeah, so I remember listening to it. I loved it when it first came out, but going back is kind of like, yeah, with those taking the emotion out of the moment of being part. Because how many years was it between Hope and Grey?
6.
Up to that
Paul
point,
died in 2010, so it was 4 years after Paul had died.
but 6 years for new music.
6 years for new music.
So for them, that's the biggest gap to date for new music.
Only just because Grey Chapter to We Are Not Your Kind was 5 years.
The hope for the album was really high as well because I think -1. Okay, it sounds different because of the aging in Corey's vocals and the difference that the changes he's undergone vocally. But I think that song could easily go on Iowa. The song.
-1.
Yeah. It's fast, it's frantic, it's angry.
It's definitely got
everything.
remnants of that.
One I
yeah.
thought could was I think it's the opener, Sarcatastrophe.
Catastrophe, yeah.
Catastrophe, yeah.
I think that was re-listening to it again, like I say, I've done fresh ears and all that sort
I
of
love
thing.
intro for this one as well. Is it 19?
Yeah.
I think that's a great.
I think 19 is the best intro they've ever done. I will. I think 19 into Sarcastrophe and then into AOV
Yeah.
is one of the
AOVs.
best. What is one of the best 1, 2, 3 punches on any album, regardless of who you are.
I think
I-
AOV's on my standouts. This one's probably the one I would pick. As well.
AOV's not on my side. I didn't.
AOV is on my list of standouts.
I got it wrong because I always thought I liked Kill Pop, and I didn't like Kill Pop. It was Custer that I liked.
I never liked
Custer's
Kill Pop.
incredible.
Yeah, I got because again I didn't. I gave it about 3 listens and then we're like, no, this I can't be getting on with this. I don't feel. Again, they built it up, the hype and all that, and I didn't get that. So I always kind of didn't really know the songs that well. Didn't know what they were, and I always thought it was Kill Pop I liked, but it wasn't. It was Custer.
No,
I thought that was interesting as well because whenever we spoke about this in the past, me and you have said, "Oh, come on, Custer's a good song," and you're like, "Nah, no, not a fan."
Yeah,
But clearly,
it was
it's 'cause you
Custer
got
because
it
I thought it
the
was.
other way
I
around.
thought.
But you see what I mean about being a bit of a muddled album? You put Kill Pop on there. It's quite unusual.
Yeah.
It's got a muddled, confused song, I think. And I know it's relatively big. It got a lot of airplay on Radio 1, Kill Pop, because it was, again, radio friendly.
Yeah.
Which is ironic for a song called Kill Pop. Yeah, Kill Pop. I remember when I first heard it, I was not a fan of that song.
Skeptic and Leech, whatever.
Is that one that's like, I know why Judas wept, motherfucker? Because I never knew whether it was a joke or a mistake or they did it on purpose or whatever, but they released the whole album on YouTube, track by track.
Yeah.
And then when it got to Lech, he did that, and then every other track following that was just Lech. Every other track just started with "I know why Judas," and whether it was a joke or they did it on purpose, I don't know. But I always thought it was really funny. It took them like a good 6 weeks to change it. It was not the next day. It was a long time that every track was just Lech.
Yeah. Have you?
I think Devil and I was a great.
Devil and I's brilliant.
When you re-listen to it, I know I wrote it down, and I don't know. I can't remember exactly what bit it was. Nomadic. Does it not sound like My Plague?
Yeah. It's definitely.
There was a bit. There was one bit in particular, and I thought I don't went.
Was it mixed guitars again?
No, I think it was like a passage of vocals.
Right.
And the delivery was very much the same as My Plague. And then going into the chorus, I think it kind of did the same sort of.
I said to you the other day, because I was reading about the album, Goodbye is actually really interesting because it's partly them saying goodbye to Paul, not so much Jerry, because obviously at that point they weren't particularly friendly with Jerry, but also is at that point Corey was considering leaving Slipknot. So that's what also that Goodbye was, because it was going to be the original intro to the Goodbye was going to be the original intro. And it was going to be Corey going, I'm done with Slipknot. This is my last hurrah. I'm getting all this out of my system. And then going on. But then as the recording of the album went on, he felt himself getting back more into the groove and more kind of, okay, I want to be here. So Goodbye just became a track. It became a track in its own right later in the album. I do like Goodbye, but again, it's a bit muddled. It starts off really slow and really.
It would be better on a Stone Sour album, I think.
I think it does. It would be better. Not having the second half. I think
the
it would.
fact that you've mentioned the muddled thing though is interesting, because I thought that this was not a return to form, because it's not up there as one of my favourite albums as much as I do like the album. It's a return to that directionless aggression, I think, that's apparent on Slipknot and Iowa.
I definitely directionless is a good term to use. I like to go.
Yeah, Sarcastrophe is a Slipknot song through and through. You can't listen to Sarcastrophe and think, they've changed, they've sold whatever. That is Slipknot through and through.
Yeah, that is old school Slipknot.
Yeah.
It's the one thing I'll always give them. Their intro into their opening song is always good.
Yeah.
Even Going Into Blister Exists. It's still.
Yeah. And when we, as you've spoiled for our many listeners already, when we do Disturbed, you already know where I'm going with this one. I do love a good intro into a song when any band does it.
Do it I'm going to say anyway.
But I think the intro for Grey Chapter is the only one that can stand up on its own.
Absolutely, yeah. The others are intros.
The XIX19, whatever you want to call it, that is a track. That's a track in its own right. And for a long time on my playlist, that was the only song from this album that was on my generic playlist, because it was just such a good. Because when, not to go into too much details, we're not that type of podcast. When it came out, I wasn't in a particularly good place, so I listened to that song a lot. I remember that being quite a cathartic experience listening to that song. Well, not the podcast, so I want to do more. But yes, for me, that's got such a powerful.
That's it. That's the thing. We're a lot of, not just Slipknot, but any music we listen to, isn't it? It's the product as you hear it is only part of it. It's where you are as well. It's what you're doing in your life, what's happening in your life. Yeah. Prequel will always have a special place in your heart because it's the one you listen to on your honeymoon. So it's you know.
Because my iPod died because of ham sweat.
Ham sweat.
That is the most middle class way an iPod can die. Because of ham sweat.
Look, Haley, the charcuterie is leaking.
Oh no, the brie has got everywhere. So runny.
I did enjoy it more though this time round, and I don't know if that's because I'd listened. I was in a Slipknot mood.
Yeah.
Because it's a good album.
I'm not saying it's not a good album. I just didn't get it.
Again,
some stuff does take time too.
Should we clarify? Like Ghost, they haven't done a bad album. They haven't. There are albums that are better than others.
Volume 3.
It's not a bad album.
See, I'm really not feeling We Are Not Your Kind, bar the one song which I'm going to mention.
And I think that's one of the ones that I've also nominated. Nero 40.
Really.
Are we going on to? What are recommendations? And then we'll go on to.
I think we've covered a chapter, haven't we? So.
Well, I've got Sarcastrophe, Skeptic, or Lech on mine, depending on what you block pick.
Well, if you want Sarcastrophe, then
go on then.
Yeah, I'll put that on. I'll take AOV.
It's Custer or 19.
you mentioned the 1, 2, 3 punch. Put 19 on. Custer's a great song.
19, yeah,
Put
19,
on,
19.
Put them in order.
Yeah, 19. I'm sorry. Yeah, the ones because they even flow
Yeah.
into each other. You can't. So I love. I mean, I think albums do need to kind of pause and stuff like that. But when there's that kind of kinetic energy running through, which that has probably more so than many other albums of any band.
I do think as an album, it does flow better
The first few tracks,
because
yes.
of how it's laid out.
I just feel confused.
The first few tracks it does, but then it comes to grinding halts.
And that may be what they're going for.
It might have been, but I found it quite jarring,
Jarring
and
to
not in a
listen
good
to,
way. I found it kind of again because I was expecting it to be quite a cathartic experience. The whole Joey Paul thing rather. I was expecting it to be a bit more releasing than that, and it wasn't. Right, so on to Wanyik as it's unhelpful.
We Are Not Your Kind.
Aye.
2019 was released. The singles were Unsainted, Solway Firth, Birth of the Cruel, and Nero Forte.
I know Birth of the Cruel was there.
Again, it might not be in every region, but they certainly did release it as a single from that album.
Which one was done as a single for the boys? Was that
That was
Solway Firth?
Yeah.
Not that I've seen the boys yet. I want to.
No, I
watch it,
haven't
I'm not
seen
seeing
it.
It's meant to
It's
be
on my list.
So you're going to say something about
Yeah, it's an unhelpful thing to take, and it sort of stance to take on this album, but it's not necessarily a case of the music itself that I've got an issue with. For this album, I'm put off it by Slipknot's response. In the run up to it being released and in the immediate sort of when it was being reviewed after it were released, Slipknot became such a set of pretentious wankers.
how so?
Jim Root is the one that sticks in my mind, and he was like, the interviewer said, it's not been received as well as other Slipknot albums. What's your thoughts on that? And he said, well, if you don't get this album, maybe Slipknot's not for you. We're doing something that's on another level here, and
Yeah, but every band's got. I get what you're saying. That is quite a wanky thing to say. But every band's got to go. Yeah, they can't go. Fair enough. Yeah, it's a bit wank this album. Wait for the next one.
But for me, as someone that's listened to them, not from the start, but certainly from relatively early on, I've been listening to them for more than half of their career. Their career. I have a Slipknot tattoo. Yeah, and Corey said a few things as well. I mean, Corey's always saying stuff, so that's nothing new. But Sean did as well, and it's like
The only thing that annoys me about Sean,
we've gone for something a bit more subliminal here, and if people don't
they did
get
that on
it,
Volume 3 because it was called Subliminal Verse.
yeah, and that left a taste as I was listening to the album, and I just thought, you know what? Yeah, Jim, you're right. I don't get it.
I listened to it once when it came out, so I have only listened to it twice. I know that. And I was much more impressed this time listening to it.
And another reason I don't like it. What's more, Death Because of Death's a shit song. It's a dog shit song. Yeah.
It's the only Slipknot, because normally when I get a new album of any band, I'll listen to it on repeat. I'll go round and round, like especially when I'm driving to and from work, go round and round in my car. We Are Not Your Kind's the only album I listen to once when out, and I put it down. I mean, this felt, for me, We Are Not Your Kind feels very much by the numbers Slipknot. This is what everyone expects Slipknot is, so this is what we're doing. Some of the tracks are brilliant, but on the whole it feels... The album tracks are very distinctly album tracks to fill up the runtime. And a lot, I'm not saying it's unique to Slipknot. A lot of bands do it. Even some of our favourite bands do it.
There were a couple of album tracks I did really like, though. Red Flag and Orphan. I quite like them too.
But again,
I enjoyed Orphan. To be fair, Orphan's a good thrashy one, and it's quite fast.
But yeah, this wasn't, for me, it wasn't muddled like Grey Chapter. Yeah. It was, for lack of a better term, it was lazy for me. We Are Not Your Kind. Well, it's a shame because when they released the song We Are Not Your Kind, I was like, that's amazing. This is brilliant.
Yeah,
okay, Slipknot are back with that aggression they once had, and then the rest of the album came out, and it's not even on the sodding album that is called that, and that really annoyed me. Yeah. I don't know why. It's a really petty thing. I suppose in the age of streaming, it doesn't really fucking matter.
No.
But it really annoyed me.
Yeah, album releases aren't
Metal's one of the few communities where it does kind of still matter.
Yeah.
The majority of music doesn't really matter like that. Yeah. You can release 3 EPs in a year and no one bats an eyelid.
Yeah.
But metal still has a lot of physical releases. It's one of the few genres where it's relatively healthy, but again, metal's worldwide quite a small community. Yeah, I know it's big in areas like Europe and parts of America and parts of over here, but on the whole, it's quite a small subgenre of music compared to pop and other industries are available.
I guess it just felt like to me in my, the fact that I'm not against casting aspersions, whether they're correct or not. I'm quite happy to what's the word? Cast aspersions, whether they may be right or wrong. But it just felt to me like they knew that they'd created a subpar album, and were then defending it to the hill because they knew that they'd released something that weren't up to their normal.
I always find though that, for one, when anybody interviews Sean, they never get Sean. They get Clown. It doesn't matter. They can put Sean Crane up at the bottom of the thing, and you can say we're here with Sean, and it doesn't correct him, but he never answers as Sean. He always answers as Clown.
If he's got that mask on, he's Clown.
I've seen him do interviews without the mask, and he's still Clown.
Okay.
He's still he says the same
and that's
things.
how you know, because he has interviewed before.
The only time I've seen him do it was somebody managed to catch him just after his daughter had died.
Oh, Christ.
And he did answer as Sean Crane.
For understandable reasons, yeah.
But that's the only time I've ever seen him do it.
Did that happen before or after this album came out?
I think it was after, wasn't it?
It was after.
Okay.
Was
in
it
the
during?
media.
Was it
I
during?
think it was during the tour. It was during the promotion tour, I think.
It was very early on as well, because he missed a few.
Yeah, it's the only time
I've seen
he's ever
Slipknot
missed
once.
Slipknot shows, isn't it?
I've seen Slipknot. Yes, it's to do with his daughter. I saw them in 2005 at Download. Sean wasn't there because his daughter was being born. Because they did, what did they do?
Oh, second time's missed Slipknot shows then.
They did Duality. And obviously they'd got nobody to hit the beer keg. And when we got to the chorus bit, and Corey was like, I want you to sing as loud so that Sean can hear you back home. He's dealing with his daughter, he's just had a daughter and all that sort of stuff. So to do with his daughter is the only times he's missed Slipknot shows.
Well,
I don't think we've got much more to say on that one. Really.
No.
I'm covered. Yeah.
Do you want to put your song on?
That's all I want to say about it.
I think I know what song you're putting on anyway. Nero Photos.
So,
That was one of mine.
It's a good song. It's by far the
Orphan
best on the
for
album
me, then.
for me. But it's also quite low down on the grand list of Slipknot. It's just the best of this album.
Yeah, I think Orphan for me.
Orphan, yeah.
I think Best for Bad Bunch for me is Unsainted.
Of the singles, other than Nero Photo, I think I preferred Unsainted.
Solway First's alright. It takes a while to get going and it's a bit overlong, but this is good.
The Killers.
Yeah, it's just it drags on a bit of Solway.
So we come to the Cabin Night ranking. We've got to agree again.
Yeah. So again, this is not our individual rankings. This is
the Cabin
Night.
Night.
The Cabin Night rankings. So it's a bit so we can't get offended.
I don't think we can do it.
I don't think we can. But
Right. Okay. So like we did last time, what's everyone's number one album?
Iowa.
Slipknot.
All Hope Is Gone. Right. What's everyone's second? What's number two?
Slipknot.
All Hope Is Gone.
Slipknot. So
So
that's
I think they should be 1 and 2 then. All Hope Is Gone.
What's your number three?
All Hope Is Gone. I don't think we can do it. Because
The thing with Ghost is we were
Relatively.
for the most part in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done one, two. What's number 4?
4 for me is Grey Chapter.
What have I done? I've done Slipknot. All Hope Is Gone.
You've got Iowa to go, but you haven't said Iowa yet. You've got
Iowa's-
Iowa,
that's
you've
not-
got We Are Not Your Kind,
Oh, no.
Volume 3. Volume 3.
Yeah, so Iowa's next then. Yeah.
From
And that's the one that changed today. It
Yeah.
was Iowa Volume 3. Sorry, it was Volume 3 Iowa. And today it changed the other way around.
when I was listening to them earlier in the week, Iowa went to number 1. And I listened to it again, it's dropped down to number 3 for me, Iowa. 4?
4 is Grey Chapter for me.
Volume 3.
Volume 3 is number 4 for me as well.
5 is We Are Not Your Kind.
5 is Grey Chapter.
5 is Grey Chapter.
And 6 is Volume 3. Just based on re-listening.
6 is...
So ours are closer. Yours is quite... Rob's is quite different to mine and Jake's standing.
So it basically means, Rob, you're going to have to bend over like I did for Ghost.
where.
Okay, right. So let's go back. Let's go back up to the top. So what was your?
I was just gonna say, if you want to move Iowa down, where are you putting it? If we're agreeing on where this is going, where are you?
What was your? What? So my number was.
Iowa, Slipknot, All Up is gone. My top 3 in that order.
And they are my top 3.
I'd say then.
No, they're not. Yeah, they are. Yeah,
Iowa Slipknot and All Hope is gone on my top 3.
So should we leave them as untouchable as the?
So we can agree they're the top 3 albums.
They're the top 3 albums.
Iowa, Slipknot,
but
and All Hope is
differ
gone.
on what is the top.
We'll come back.
What is number
We'll
2,
come
what
back
is
to
number
it. So then there's the bottom 3 of Volume 3, Grey Chapter, and Wanyik.
I put Grey Chapter as 4.
Okay.
Wanyik as 5, and Volume 3.
Order of release for me.
So 3 Grey. Yeah, yeah, that's the same for me. So we need to fight our corners now.
I am willing to drop Iowa down in order of Slipknot. I will put Slipknot number 1.
So we can agree. So Slipknot is our number 1 album as a group. That's I think's fair.
Iowa is not going down to number 3 for me. There is no chance in hell it's going down to number 3.
It's already in 3 for me.
Iowa's the one for me that's jumped around the most while listening to it. It's gone from bottom to top to second to third to top to so I'm willing to make more of a sacrifice.
You see, I'd rather swap All Hope Is Gone into first than drop it into third. I'd rather swap the others round rather than
we can make an unprecedented decision and say that Iowa and All Hope are joint second. If we can't decide, because I think it's going to be tough for us. Because I think in my right, I can't say that All Hope Is Gone is not as good as Iowa. I think it's a stronger album. I think it's a better recorded album. I think on all fronts, All Hope Is Gone.
I'd rather you kept Iowa, insisting on keeping Iowa as number 1. Do you know what I mean? Rather than me have changed where All Hope Is Gone features. Because that's a far more important album for me.
What, Iowa?
No, All Hope Is Gone.
Yeah, but All Hope Is Gone is number 2 for you.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm saying.
but I'm
I'd
saying-
rather Rob kept
So would
Iowa
you-
as his number 1 and would argue that point out. I think I'd rather drop Slipknot.
To number 3.
No, to number 2 and drop. I'd rather knock All Hope Is Gone by virtue of Slipknot dropping than I would drop All Hope Is Gone to third in favour of Iowa.
So what you said?
Basically, what I'm saying is there's no world in which I would put Iowa above All Hope Is Gone. Is basically what I'm saying.
I think I agree, which is why I was saying the compromise of joint second.
I'll take joint second.
Okay, 30 second works for me.
It's the only one I think that's the album we're going to struggle
If
with the most.
we're doing it,
because Iowa, you can tell Iowa means so much to you.
it does.
I think.
Yeah.
What Iowa means to you and what All Hope Is Gone, I think, means to me and Jake. I don't think we'll be able to
I
disagree.
suppose being there at the point of it being released, you are the only one in the group that has
Yeah.
been there when it came out as well, so that's got to count for.
Yeah, it's got
And
to count for a lot.
it has my favourite Slipknot song on
But
it.
again, that's the big thing with All Hope Is Gone for me, is being there. That was the first album they released since
Yeah.
we became fans, and it was just, I remember.
Well, were you not into them on Volume 3 then? Like, were you not into them like on the
I
back end of
got
Iowa?
into them on the Volume 3 cycle.
Right, okay. I thought you were already into them.
By
Volume
listening
3.
to Iowa songs.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so 1 is Slipknot. 2, joint second, in no particular order, is Iowa and All Hope Is Gone. All Hope is Iowa. That's what
All
we'll
Hope
do.
is Iowa.
All Iowa is gone.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Well, if you listen to them, they probably.
Iowa Hope Is Gone. No.
Yeah.
Iowa Hope Is Gone quite works, I think.
So that means some albums are getting moved drastically up to 3 then. So
that leaves Volume 3, Grey, and Wanyik.
I mean, it would be Volume 3 for me, but I would, on balance, be alright with Grey Chapter being that one.
So what was number 3? There was number 4 for you, Grey.
Grey.
I can live with that.
It was only Grey Chapter.
It's a better album, and as what I said earlier, it's a return to form.
I take it as a better. I'll take it over Volume 3 in the sense that they're in relatively better places and it's a better recorded album. I think for me, I think even though I think it's muddled, I think it's a better recorded album.
It's a more true to form Slipknot album as well.
Mm-hmm.
In the fact that it's directionless.
Traditional Slipknot, yes, I agree.
So does that put Volume 3 in 4 and Wanyik in 5 then?
Yeah.
Because we've got a joint second.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, if
Sorry, my brain was going, what? The hamster fell off the wheel for a second.
If I'd have gone with my original without re-listening to them, I would have probably put Volume 3 after All Hope Is Gone anyway.
On first thought, I'd have gone with my not listened to them in a long time order. They'd have gone in release order apart from 3 and 4, which would have swapped around. It'd have been All Hope Is Gone, then Volume 3. But other than that, it'd have been release order.
So,
Grey, 3, and We Are Not Your Kind.
No, Not Your Kind. Yeah, okay.
I
think as the cabin night, I think that's a fair compromise.
I've only moved We Are Not Your Kind up because on re-listening to those, I really hadn't liked it as much this time, so that's only gone to bottom. It would have been We Are Not Your Kind, it was bottom anyway.
Interestingly as well though, We Are Not Your Kind is the first album Slipknot have released since we've known each other.
Yes.
I remember listening to We Are Not Your Kind on way to Lockup in van, and you were a bit unsure. And I think I probably had the same argument then as I've got now, in the sense that I'm saying it feels a lot more like traditional Slipknot.
If We Are Not Your Kind of song was actually on there, I think the album would rank higher for me. That's how strong that song is.
It is a good song.
But because it's not
I don't
there,
think it could pull it up much though. Not based on the one song.
It means there'd be 2 songs I liked on it as opposed to
yeah. Right, so that was. To be fair, we did a lot of debating.
Have we picked us We Are Not Your Kind songs?
Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
we did. That's all right. Having been in your position where I'm knocking one of my favourites down a level, I understand your pain, Rob. You're allowed to be bitter about it from here on in.
To be fair, I would. I ain't got a problem with Slipknot being number 1. It's just I say Iowa does mean a lot more to me than Slipknot does. But again, that is the first album I bought that came out while I was a fan.
But again, there's a lot about our taste. That our top 3 and our bottom 3
are the same.
we're the same. Order's slightly different, but the top 3 and bottom, which I think says on the whole, our taste is actually relatively similar when it comes to Slipknot.
So we said,
they do strike me as sort of notable eras as well.
Did we say Grey Chapter, then Volume 3, and then We Are Not Your Kind? So that's interesting because when they released Grey Chapter, I would have always put that at bottom because I really didn't like it at first. But
I love Grey Chapter. I think when it first came out, I might have put it in the top half. I loved it. I liked it that much, but it's sort of as the iron has cooled, as it were. I think I've mellowed a lot more to that album.
So you mentioned Masks.
Yes, probably should quickly discuss what is our favourite and least favourite mask.
Top and bottom.
Not for every member, just in general.
Well, Craig's hasn't changed. They've just got the spikes have just got longer.
Yes.
So it's not his mask hasn't changed.
So if you like Craig's, you like Craig's. Yeah.
Jim's hasn't changed that much.
No, Jim's and Mick's have always been.
Yeah.
Jim's and Mick's have always been kind of a theme.
Mick's has just got longer, hasn't it? As his beard's got longer.
Yeah, it's about to hide more of his beard. Yeah, but then his beard's grown out long.
I think the
Joey's All Hope Is Gone mask is incredible with the crown of thorns.
yeah. I think,
and he had the fingers as well, didn't he?
So
that was cool.
Do chorus first. So which is the best and the worst?
Oh, you're going to do it for all
not every
all
member.
the 9?
No, just chorus is the most visible because he's the one up front.
His worst, Volume 3. I can't.
You prefer that over the
no, his worst.
Yeah, you think that's worse than the milk carton one.
Yeah. But I
think his worst is the Wannick one.
I think his worst is the Wannick one.
No, I like the Wannick one.
His new Wannick one is good. It's good. I like that one.
Yeah, it's like that though, isn't it?
But it's close to that.
Yeah. Just with smaller eyes.
No, I like his Wannick because it had the paint underneath him, and that every night it was slightly different.
Yeah.
And the mask he said the mask
It looks
itself.
fat.
But the mask itself, he said, was quite painful to wear.
Yeah.
So it gave it a very much more cathartic feel for the mask, which he said he hadn't had for a long time. So it's not my favourite. It's middly, that one, but yeah, I think
his worst is his Wannick one.
His Wannick one's worse.
The
The reason I liked his Volume 3 one is because it was based. Well, it was Tom Savini, wasn't it? It was based on Leatherface.
But it was so badly done, I think, because it wasn't a big. It was just a mask. But yes, but I also generally I do think it's the least developed. I think it's the least developed mask he did. Like the All Hope Is Gone mask was done for a reason because he said he was losing a lot of weight at that point.
Yeah.
And so people were starting to pick up on his features, like, you've got nice cheekbones, you've got that. So he deliberately went for a mask that hid everything.
Yeah.
There was nothing. It was
blank.
literally a blank. You could see his eyes and his mouth. That was
Yeah.
it. It was blank, and that's why. Is it my favourite? Is the All Hope Is Gone mask my favourite? It might be. I can't actually picture his Grey Chapter mask.
It was the
The one
One
where
that had
you
a
took the
bit
bottom
that-
bit off.
I like the idea.
It was
but
quite
didn't work.
plain. It was dark greyish, weren't it? And you
Yeah.
put the bottom
Face
off,
S
and then it
mask,
were
weren't
then
it?
it were more colourful underneath.
I like the idea, but it didn't work. Yeah, I think it's my favourite will be the All Hope Is Gone mask.
I think my favourite is his original mask,
One where his dreads came through it as
but
well.
the Iowa version of his original
Yeah,
mask.
because it didn't change that much between one and two.
His is the only one that actually didn't change at all, other than he had the bits put in it.
yeah.
Because originally it was his hair that came
Falling
through
to bits. His original
Yeah.
mask.
Yeah, it's disintegrated completely, isn't it, over
Yeah.
years?
I know, I'd probably go with All Hope He's Gone as well, simply because... I don't know. Yeah, his has always been my least favourite in the band anyway, mask-wise.
But his has got to be the most practical mask, though, compared to the others. His has got to be... The others can experiment a little bit more, whereas
Yeah,
Corey's always got to have something movable around
We
his
can
mouth.
disregard Chris's mask because it's always...
A
Yeah,
big phallus.
just changes colour.
Yeah.
No, he did.
Well, he did. Clown. I mean, I know it's
Iowa.
and Iowa with a 666 carved in the
Is
top.
that when you see part of his
Yeah.
brain?
Brain,
That was his
yeah.
creepiest mask.
Yeah.
I quite liked his... again, his All Hope Is Gone
Because
mask.
it's quite robotic, weren't it?
Yeah.
But they all went, well, with the exception, they all kind of, because Sid's were a lot more.
Sid's was quite robotic.
And Paul's was. Paul had got them red eyes on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, didn't he? That's a mask I will say I don't like to this day. Is Sid's Wanyuk mask. I do not like.
It's got teeth.
Yeah,
the mask
he
itself
changes
got
teeth.
teeth.
I do
Mind
not-
it, his mask in Volume 3 had teeth, but he was a skeleton, so it was
Yeah.
meant to be
Yeah, it
scary.
worked.
Whereas this was sort of like a hyper-realism type
Yeah.
thing, wasn't it?
Again,
So it
for
was-
how visceral it was, his I don't know if it's his Iowa mask or his Slipknot mask, but it was just the gas mask, and you
Yeah.
can see I really
But they're
liked
just
it.
the big
That was
eyes.
his Iowa one, yeah.
I really like
I
the gas
quite
mask.
liked his because he got like movable robot.
Yeah.
What's the one where he had sharp teeth? That was his Grey Chapter one, wasn't it? We had, like-
Yeah, because he had a faceplate he could remove, and he had like
Yeah.
The mix has never really changed. Jim's to some extent hasn't changed that much.
He's always been a jester, hasn't he?
It-
Yeah.
He lost the point at some point, though, didn't
Yeah,
he? And
because
then-
of his beard was getting
Yeah.
so big. So
he just had like a cut off bit.
because you can see just in the background of that picture, he's brought out his old mask
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
In fact, he was one of the few that did, because obviously Corey couldn't bring out his original mask. But
So what's your favourite overall then? I've mentioned mine already. I'd say Joey's All Hope He's Gone one. With the whole... I remember reading a Metal Hammer review saying it couldn't be more satanic if he had a sacrificial virgin over his shoulder.
Although, technically, that wasn't his mask. He wore the crown of thorns on top of that mask. That wasn't his mask. His mask was
It's
not.
a look though, isn't it?
It's the look.
all the promo shots
Yeah.
had him
Yeah.
in like that. Favourite overall? I don't know if I can...
I think either the All Up Is Gone Joey or Clown from Iowa.
I don't think I could pick my favourite. I don't think I could pick my favourite mask overall. Simply because there's so many. There's quite a few I like individually.
Just on attire as well, seeing as the jumpsuits have always been a thing. The Make, Feed, Kill, Repeat era had quite a few of them wearing ball gowns.
Mm.
Did it? I did not know that.
Yeah. What I used to find funny when they used to tour like that when they first started is they used to all go up on stage, do all the sound check on their own, and then go off stage, put the mask on, and go back out again.
That's the thing I don't like. That's it. Because the boiler suits, like see, it's the red boiler suits there. I always felt like it's kind of very spur of the moment. Cause, we need to look a uniform boiler suit, do it, put a number on it, fine. I always thought the Iowa ones were a bit too contrived because they had like patches on them. They were very designed.
Yeah,
I
the
thought.
Iowa.
Barcode.
Yeah.
I always felt that they were a bit too designed, the Iowa ones. I wasn't keen on the Iowa.
So again, I'll go back to All Up Is Gone as being the best era because there was some nice differences. Like Mick has always been jumpsuit, big boots.
Yeah.
But Corey developed more like a jacket.
It was a military style
It's a
jacket,
military
yeah.
Jacket, yeah.
For me, I'd have liked them to have not kept the boiler suits as boiler suits, but just slightly changed them each album. So eventually they become a trouser and a jacket type thing, but it's still part of in that original boiler suit type thing. Like Mick's done, he's very much kept his original
Yeah, I think if I was going
He
to
was
say
for
favourite...
white at one point, didn't he? You know?
Yeah.
Gods and Metals are
Yeah.
all right. Yeah.
I think also,
Dynamo Open Air, I think, as well.
if I was to pick a favourite overall, I think it's Mick. Just a joke, because he hasn't changed. He's very true.
Yeah.
I think I'd go for Mick. I think I would go for Mick.
I think Mick or Jim. Because again, he hasn't changed drastically.
No, it's always been on a theme.
So I'd say ones I always look forward to looking at what they've decided. I mean, obviously not Joey now, but ones I've looked forward to seeing what they do is Joey or Sid. Sid's is generally always entertaining.
Sid's is always a bit more out there.
Always
Yeah.
going to be something different.
Yeah. So, for the first time in season 2, you've been great. We've been Cabin Night. Good night.